Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel on this draft day. It is the day of the NHL draft, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, kind of expanding on, one of the videos I did yesterday. Although before I get into that, I'd like to welcome you all again. And if you're new and you're seeing the channel for the first time, hopefully you enjoy the video. If you do, check out some of the other videos. I love doing jersey unboxings, stuff like that, and doing news videos and talking about stuff like this. So if you enjoy that, check out the other videos. If you enjoy it, hit like and subscribe down there. I would love to have you be a part of the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. It would be awesome. And so sorry about that. My wife's work phone decided to go off, and it's she's not working today. So why some of the people she works with, or that she goes and sees some of her clients. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the video I did yesterday, talking about Kirill Kaprizov and whether or not he's going to be able to come back or not. Same with Ivan Fedotov, the Flyers draft pick. And I wanted to kind of coincide that with the draft tonight, because I know there are some pretty good young Russian hockey players that are going to be available in the draft tonight. And I got a crazy feeling that a lot of the NHL teams, they're not going to draft these guys, because they don't know. They don't know if they're going to be able to come over or not. So they're like, why are we going to draft this, this really good young Russian phenom if the country's not going to let him go? So I think that's going to be a big factor in the draft tonight. And one thing that I always vowed to do with this channel, this was never going to be a political channel. This was going to be a hockey channel, good hockey talk, what it's been. Unfortunately, with this case, with Kaprizov and Fedotov and some of these other players, it kind of meshed together. And and I want to have, if these kids or any of these really good Russian players that sign contracts that sign contracts with the NHL, I'd love for them to be able to come over. I really would. Especially, once their deals with the KHL expires, they should be able to come over. Because I've heard that's one of the agreements that the NHL and the KHL had always had was the NHL would not try to sign a KHL player who was under contract to the Continental Hockey League. Totally understandable, which I get. I totally understand that, because you don't want to have, because then you might get the one guy, he might then want to leave before his contract in the KHL is up. So I totally get the idea, or the fact that they don't want the NHL coming in and trying to sort of poach their contracted players. So I totally understand that. But if you're not under contract to the KHL anymore, and you want to sign with an NHL team, you should be free to sign with an NHL team. And to me, you should be allowed to come over. If you want to come over, you should be allowed to come over. Unfortunately, that's not how this apparently is working out right now, especially right now. And it sucks. It does. It sucks for a lot of these guys, because a lot of them, they're like, yeah, okay, we'd like to go back home because our families are there, but they're fully expecting to come back. And in this case, I mean, Fedotov has, he hasn't even gotten a chance to come over here. But I think in his case, they're making an example of, hey, we tell you to stay, you stay. We're not letting you leave. Where, they used to do that back. That's how they used to do it back in the old Soviet Union, when the Iron Curtain was up. I'm old enough to remember. Well, I was about 2.5 when the 1980 Miracle on Ice happened. Now, of course, growing up a hockey fan, I learned about that game real quick. And I learned just how good that Soviet Red Army team at that time was. That entire team could have been NHL players, easily. Some of them became NHL players. Some of them did really good. Some, not so much. But it, that was a team. They were the dominant hockey team, and they beat everybody. The Summit Series, I think was that the one. I'm trying to remember if the Summit Series was the one where they played basically Team Canada's best, or because I know they played a game against the NHL All-Star. The NHL put together a team of All-Stars, and they got smoked by these guys. The Soviets they smoked those guys. That's how good they were. They were fantastic hockey players. And one thing that I've heard and that I've read, especially when it comes to, like the old Detroit Red Wings, who all got out of there, who were able to come over and play for Detroit, like Sergei Fedorov, Igor Larionov, Vladimir Konstantinov, I think Slava Kozlov, was part of that. He might not have played. I don't know if he played for the Red Wings though, but I know Fedorov, Konstantinov, Larionov, who did I say? Freaking Konstantinov. A lot of ovs in there. But they had said in these documentaries, the one thing that they do in Russia is, especially for hockey, they beat the sport into them. It's not like here where you're playing a sport and then you go and you tell your parents, I don't really want to do this anymore. Okay, fine. And the parents will just, okay, they'll not let the kid do it anymore. It's not the case in Russia. That's never been the case. They have always pushed these kids to be incredible athletes, incredible hockey players. So, it's a totally different type of atmosphere over there. And trust me, a lot of these Russian players over there, they're really good. They are really good. And and when I look at the draft, when I look at what's going to happen at the draft tonight, we know, who probably the first few picks are going to be. I'm curious, at what pick will the first Russian player go? Will there be a Russian player picked in the first round? Or are they all going to drop? That's going to be interesting to find out. The draft is an interesting thing. And yeah, so we'll have to see when the first Russian player goes, if they go in the first round or if they drop. And if they drop, how far do they drop? I don't know. But I'm hoping. Obviously, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that that any of the Russian players that have gone back home, hopefully, they'll all be including Ivan Fedotov. Hopefully, they'll be able to come over. Or either come over or come back over, hopefully, because these guys are some darn good players, and I hope they're able to come back over, and because I would look forward to seeing Ivan Fedotov and how good of a goaltender he could potentially be for the Philadelphia Flyers. That'd be fantastic. I mean, we already know what kind of player Kirill Kaprizov is. He's fantastic. I mean, that's the player that the Minnesota Wild here want to build their team around, and they should. Which is why I've said the Wild should be bad for a couple of years. Try to get some try to get some high, decent draft picks to build around him. He's the central figure of the Minnesota Wild. That's the guy we're trying to build the team around. And that's the guy you want to build your team around. Because he's tremendous. He is absolutely fantastic. So hopefully they'll be able to come over. Hopefully, something will happen, or I don't know. Like I said, I mean, this is a whole different thing. And, these guys may have NHL contracts, but what good are those when the country they live in is telling them, no, you're not going anywhere? What's the contract? How good is the contract? That contract ain't worth barely worth the paper it's printed on. Because what are the teams going to do? Write a sternly worded letter? That's not going to do anything. And it's just and that's the thing. The NHL is basically, the teams in the league, they're stuck. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, trying to figure out, okay, how do we get these players out of there? I mean, we're already seeing Brittany Griner, a WNBA player. She's stuck over there. She's looking at a couple years worth of prison time for basically having a little trace of CBD oil, hemp oil. I'll tell you what, CBD oil, that stuff works. That stuff's really good. And it's not illegal here, but apparently over there it is. And so she's been stuck over there she's been stuck there for months. And Russia's like, yeah, we're not giving her over. So, and she's an American. She's an American over there. And they're not going to give her back without, extracting their pound of flesh for a little CBD oil. So, of course, what are they going to do with their own players? I don't know. I hope they're able to come back. I hope they're all able to come back. I don't care what country you're from. If you are a good hockey player and you are an NHL caliber hockey player, I want you to be able to come over here, show your skills off, be the best you can be, and make your money. That's what I want. I don't care what country you're from. If you're good enough to be able to play in the NHL and you get drafted, I want you to be able to come over here. I want you to be able to come over here. I want you to be able to show off your skill. I'd love to see them be, every one of them be as good as Kirill Kaprizov. I mean, we know, not all of them are gonna be, but I'd love to, give them the opportunity to at least come over here and then they can make some money. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to or not. But I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and opinions. Do you think these guys are going to be able to come over before next season tips off, which is the first part of October, or even preseason? Does Fedotov get let to come over? Is Kaprizov going to be allowed to come over? Because apparently they don't like their players leaving their country to go play elsewhere. So I don't know. And how far of a drop do a lot of these Russian kids that are eligible to be drafted, how far do they drop? Do we see a good Russian kid get drafted in the first round? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Do some of these really good Russian players get drafted in the first round, or do they drop? And if they drop, how far do they drop? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. Give me your opinions. And again, if you're new, hopefully you were able to get all the way through the video. If you were, I love you. And if you're watching for the first time and you're not a subscriber and you like the videos, hit that like and subscribe button down there. It would be absolutely fantastic. I would love it. I would greatly appreciate it. And again, how far, do we get a Russian player drafted in the first round tonight? Or do they drop? And if they do drop, how far? Love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. I'll see you guys again soon.